Let's see. How to burn a corpse easily after killing them with a machete. Oh.
Oi.
Hi there. I did not see you there.
Bullshit.
Yeah, just don't mind the corpse laying behind me, okay? Just
Huh?
eyes on me. Eyes are all on me, okay? I'm the one that's supposed to be getting attention, not that guy that I literally 100% did not kill with a machete. Yeah, trust me, I didn't kill him.
Okay.
Even if I did, he had it coming. Let's just forget about it. Anyway, hello and welcome back to Payday 2, where this time I will be talking about a perk deck that I've been wanting to talk about for so long because it has a very mixed opinion on everyone. Well, everybody has their own very mixed up opinion. A lot of people say it's good. A lot of people say it's probably the one of the worst. But in my opinion, as someone who plays with the perk deck, it is probably one of the top 5 best perk decks in the entire game itself. And so, the perk deck that I am going to be mainly talking about is the Armor perk deck. Now, you might be thinking, random, the Armor perk deck is very simple and not complicated. What is there to talk about? Well, my sweet little innocent child that I going to bash your head against the wall
I beg
with.
your pardon?
You are dead wrong. There are many things to talk about this perk deck, and I will briefly explain to you why. So, as the name suggests, the Armor perk deck mainly focuses on providing a huge amounts of armor without any sort of like additional skills whatsoever. Now, at first glance, it may not seem like it's extremely, mind-numbing or it's like mind-blowing exactly, but it is one of those perk decks where a lot of people don't really utilize it correctly. Even myself sometimes, I don't even use this perk correctly, and I sometimes get killed very easily, and I start to complain about why this perk deck is useless. Trust me, there will be many instances where whenever you're using this perk, you're either going to dominate the cops without having any problem whatsoever, or the cops are going to dominate you. So this perk is kind of a 50-50 in a way. It just kind of depends on like how you use this perk, because a lot of people assume that high armor equals more aggression, like you're supposed to be playing aggressive with this. That is true in some way, but however, you need to be very careful because we're talking death sentence here. We're not talking like death wish or like mayhem or whatever. We're talking mainly on death sentence. So with the armor perk deck equipped, and if you wear the ICTV or the improvised combined tactical vest, you're able to tank two hits from a heavy unit. Now this doesn't really seem like much, but think of the possibilities of where another extra hit is there to save you. Because there's been so many instances, especially for me, where that extra one more hit is enough to save me. And so, the perk deck mainly emphasizes, or like, it sort of forces you, well not forces you, but it sort of like suggests you to play much more carefully, because despite being an extremely simple perk, it does have a few problems here and there. Although not exactly problems, but it is one of those perk decks where you need to think very carefully of how you play, because it's not like Hacker or like it's not like Kingpin or like Sicario where you're relying on a specific item, and once it's on a cooldown, you're just practically on your own. It's like take Hacker as an example, a very good perk that gives you high armor and a lot of crowd control. But once you're out of those, what the fuck are you gonna do? Rely on dodge? Yeah, well, you're either gonna get cooked over or you literally dodge every bullet that you see in human history. But the armor doesn't really have any sort of chances, or doesn't really have any like bonus effects, or well, it does have one bonus effect, and I'll get to that later on. But it's one of those perks where it's just very simple and it's not very complicated. Literally anybody can pick this, new players or even veteran players. And so, how is the perk deck on this sentence? It is extremely effective if used correctly, because if you're using the right build and the right loadout and the weapons, you're able to literally walk through hordes of enemies without having any sort of issue. Because the first 3 tiers that you mainly get from armor, they just simply provide you with bonus armor. Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3 armor. They all give you 10% each, up to a total of 30%. Now, Tier 7 is where we get the interesting part. It says, your armor recovery rate is increased by 10%, but when your armor gets depleted, meaning it completely broke, you're completely immune to damage for 2 seconds. No matter what is shooting at you, whether it be a dozer or a minigun dozer, whatever the fuck is shooting at you, you're completely immune to any damage known to human history, except gravity. Fuck you, gravity. Anyway, so you're able to literally walk through hordes of enemies without having any sort of issue. That 2 seconds doesn't really seem much, but trust me, that shit will save you more than anything in this world. And so, but the only problem is that this doesn't really occur every 15 seconds. And you might think, oh, it's just 15 seconds, what's the big deal? You don't get an indicator that it's ready, unless you're using a HUD. And I don't like using HUDs because they're boring and they give you too much advantages, so I don't really like them. And so you sort of kind of stuck in a situation where you're like asking yourself, do I have the immunity or do I not? And so you're like, you lost count. Sure, you could try counting, but you're probably going to be like losing count when you're like fighting hordes of enemies that are like surrounding your ass. And tier 9 is just basically gives you more armor and increases the armor recovery time for you and your crew by 10%. It's simple. In total, you get a 35% armor increase, a 20% armor recovery rate, and you get a 2 second damage immunity. And that's it. There's really not much else to really talk about other than the fact that this perk is an extremely good perk, but it's sort of like depends on the map itself. If it's a very open map, take like not counterfeit, but technically counterfeit. Take Birth of Sky, what's it called? Goat Simulator, and other like very open and wide maps. This perk is sort of struggles a little bit because like there's so many angles you can get shot from, and let's also not mention the fact that you're also wearing like the heaviest armor and you're slowed down. And a lot of people see that as a huge downside, but in reality, it's not really bad, to say the least, because you already have a pretty good amount of movement speed, even if you're wearing the heaviest armor. It's like, you only need like 2 skills to and that's it. Like, you don't really need any sort of like bonus movement speed perks or like some other shit. You can just grab parkour or whatever the fuck other perks that give you, or skills that give you movement speed. And so, but the main playstyle that you should be focusing with this is more close range and very more careful type. Like, you should be playing more defensively, to say the least, because this perk mainly emphasis on you being the main priority of doing objectives because of that 2 second of invincibility. Because, sure, there are like hundreds of cops shooting at you, but when you're like fixing a drill or opening a door, and if your armor gets broken and there's like a little bit time left, you could just ignore every bit of damage for 2 seconds, and if you somehow survive, you're good to go. And so, the only downside about this perk is that you don't really have a lot of mobility to really work with, or a lot of concealment. But if you want a build, or like a couple of builds from me or like from someone else, here's a video of Carrot, a Payday 2 YouTuber, or I think he retired as a Payday 2 content creator, that has a video where he makes a couple of loadouts or like builds for the armor perk deck. And trust me, the armor perk deck is an extremely good perk. It's extremely good if used correctly, because you're able to fight multiple enemies at once without having to retreat constantly. Because when you're using like high dodge perks, like Hacker or Rogue or whatever, you're sort of relying on RNG. Once your armor is broken, you're literally in a position where you either get hit instantly, or you literally dodge every fucking bullet to mankind. So it's a literal roll the dice bullshit. But with armor, you know when your armor is going to break, and you know when you can fall back. But what type of weapons should you be using with this perk? Simple. LMGs, sniper rifles, or even assault rifles for that matter. But if you're going with assault rifles and LMGs and other fully automatic weapons, I would highly suggest using Frenzy Aced and Berserker Aced. Now this might sound a bit weird because even with Frenzy Aced, you're still a 2-shot target from heavy units. But think of the amount of possibilities of multiple enemies you can survive. Lightweight units are gonna struggle killing you, even tasers, because tasers do less damage than heavy units because I think they do like 200 damage or 210, so they have to literally shoot you 3 times in order to break your armor. Enemy medics are gonna struggle to kill you, shields, LMG dozers, minigun dozers, because they have to shoot you multiple times to break your armor, and even if your armor does break, you have enough time to kill them before that 2-second invincibility goes away. So the heavy units are the only problem that is capable of fucking you over. But if you want to be able to resist 3 shots, I would highly recommend bringing Underdog Aced, Bullseye Aced, Frenzy Aced, and if you're playing solo, bring in the armor boost that one of the AI can bring you. And you could also bring in like maybe first aid kits with like upper Ace and quick fix Ace to get that bonus damage resistance. And now for you Payday 2 veterans be like, but that's so much skill wasting. Oh, there's so much other skills that are useful. And to that I say, fuck you. I can do whatever I want. I can build whatever the fuck I want. If you don't like it, deal with it. But other than that, let me talk about it. Sure, this is probably not the best perk, but this is what I usually use, because it's one of my favorite builds to use because it allows me to tank 3 hits. Majority of the time, to say at least. Not 100% all the time, but it's enough for me to resist more fights. And that's it about the armor perk deck. Despite being an extremely simple and non-complicated perk deck, at first glance it may not seem like that much, that doesn't really provide you that much bonus effects, but trust me, if you use it correctly, it's going to save you a lot, but it's going to sort of have to depend on the map. If it's like an open-end map, as I said earlier, it is going to struggle, but in a closed-door map, like Undercover, First World Bank, and etc., you are going to perform very well, because the armor perk deck excels at close range, because even if an enemy does like break like half of your armor, or like almost breaks it completely, you're still able to keep going. And that's pretty much it. The perk itself is a very underutilized perk and misunderstood by many people that I see on YouTube or like on my public matches. A lot of people just assume I'm trolling because I'm using armor, when they themselves are like getting cooked over 90% of the time. And there will be certain instances where I have a bad day and the armor perk deck is just not able to help me because I play like a fucking idiot. Because trust me, even though I try my best to play slow, there will be that one time where I will rush in like a fucking idiot and not think of twice of my surroundings and then start to complain about why armor is not working. So be aware of your surroundings. If there's like hordes of enemies out in the open, don't even try to go fight them, just stay a little bit further back. So that's it. That concludes the armor perk deck. To describe it in an extremely short-fashioned way, use the armor perk deck whenever you're in a very tight map. I mean, use it whenever you want. I'm not saying like don't use it at this area, but if you want my advice, don't use it on maps that are like extremely wide open. Use it on maps that have good amount of cover or are like indoor maps, to say at least. Mercy Hospital, Undercover, etc., etc., and so on and so on. And bring in either medic bags or ammo bags to make it better, or first aid kits if you want to have the extra 10% bonus damage resistance from quick fix aced. And what the weapons you should be using are like sniper rifles, LMGs, shotguns, whatever you want. This is a very flexible perk deck. And I have another thing. If you want to actually have a crit build with this, it is very possible, but it's going to cost you a shit ton of points. So here is my loadout, to say at least. Basically, instead of using the ICTV, I use the improved Combine Vest. The second best armor, like the second highest armor, to say at least. And so, if you have a perfect weapon with high concealment, both in your primary and secondary, you're actually able to reach 23 concealment, and with it you're able to literally reach or have critical hits, or like critical shots, basically. And so, yeah, this perk is extremely flexible, but the only problem is your mobility is going to hinder a lot. And so you can use this in a sniper build, LMG build, whatever, or even a crit build for that matter, if you invest your skills at the right timing. And that's it. It's a very simple perk, not too complicated and very good. And I see a lot of people underutilize this a lot, and so I feel like I should talk about it because it kind of hurts my soul when people say that this perk is bad, when in my opinion it's one of the top 5 best perks in the game. Even if I get down a lot with it, it's because of my fault, because I rush in like an idiot and don't take it slow. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. I don't know when my next Payday 2 video will come up, because Payday 3 is literally right around the fucking corner. Depends on like when I release this, so maybe expect a Payday 3 video. I'm not sure, but we'll see in the future. But for now, that's all I have to offer so far. Oh jeez. Yeah, they're gone. Yeah, bring in the next type subject. Oh, ooh, you are a feisty one. Oh wait, oh shit. Oh well, fuck me. FBI, open up!